Okay, so you know the big names in travel, right? Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt. We see them everywhere. But there's this huge illusion right at the heart of the entire hotel industry. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on who's really behind the front desk.
I mean, really think about it for a second. When you book a room at a Marriott, you assume you're doing business with Marriott. But the name on that sign, it's often just the beginning of the story. The person who actually owns the physical building is probably someone you've never, ever heard of.
Just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, let's just look at Marriott. They've got more than 8,700 properties flying their flag. It's a global empire. You'd think they'd need this absolutely colossal bank account to own all that real estate, wouldn't you?
Well, here's the big reveal, the part that changes everything. Marriott owns less than 1% of those properties. The same goes for Hilton. Over 99% are owned by somebody else. That's a crazy difference that totally flips how you think about this industry.
So who are these mystery owners then? They're independent companies, like MCR, which is actually the third largest hotel owner in the entire United States. They're the ones who own the building, they hire the staff, and they take on all the financial risk. So the friendly person checking you in? Yeah, they probably work for a company like MCR, not for Marriott.
But that brings up a really big question, right? Why would a company that is famous for hotels decide to get out of the business of, well, owning hotels? It all comes down to a huge shift away from what turned out to be a really heavy burden.
You know, this didn't happen overnight. The whole thing started way back in the 50s. The new highway system got Americans driving everywhere, and Holiday Inn came up with the franchise model to keep up. Other brands followed suit, but they still owned a lot of their own properties. It wasn't until much more recently that they went all in on this asset-light model.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Here it is, straight from Marriott's chief financial officer. The old way of doing things, owning everything, was just too slow and way too risky. Every new hotel was a gigantic investment, and a bad economy could be devastating. Their own buildings were actually holding them back.
So when you put it side by side, the change is a total no-brainer. They swapped high financial risk for low risk. They traded slow, super expensive growth for lightning-fast global expansion. Instead of just using their own money, they could now tap into investment capital from all over the world.
And this shift kicked off what we call the asset-light revolution. Honestly, the easiest way to wrap your head around it is to think about tech platforms you probably use every day.
The core idea here is really simple. Stop owning the expensive stuff, the actual buildings, and instead focus on what you're truly great at. That's building a powerful brand, creating killer systems, and managing a huge network of customers. It's exactly what Uber does with cars and what Airbnb does with apartments.
Okay, so here's the playbook, step by step. First, an investor buys or builds a hotel. Then, they pay a fee, usually somewhere between 5 and 15% of their revenue, to a brand like Marriott. In return, the brand gives them the keys to the kingdom, the famous name, the powerful booking system, all the standards, and, crucially, access to millions of loyal customers. The owner runs the hotel and gets to keep the rest of the profit.
And really, it's a system where pretty much everybody wins. The brand gets to grow like crazy all over the world without spending billions on construction. The owner gets a business in a box with customers ready to go on day one. And for you, the traveler, you get that consistent, predictable experience almost anywhere you go.
So this model created a whole new focus for these companies. If Marriott isn't in the building business anymore, what business are they in? They're in the brand business. And that explains why you see dozens of different hotel names that all trace back to the same parent company.
The strategy is all about creating what the industry calls swim lanes. The whole idea is to make sure none of their own brands are directly competing with each other. Each one is carefully crafted to attract a very specific type of traveler, whether you're looking for absolute luxury, a quick business stay, or a room with a kitchen for a few weeks.
I mean, just look at Marriott's Residence Inn and its TownePlace Suite. On the surface, they seem almost identical. Both are for longer stays, both have kitchens, both have pools. But those tiny little differences, like one having a bar and the other not, are designed to put them in slightly different lanes to appeal to slightly different customers.
So if you've got all these different brands, all these separate swim lanes, what's the one thing that holds this entire universe together? It's the single most important piece of the whole strategy, the loyalty program. This is the glue.
And the scale we're talking about here is it's mind-boggling. Marriott's Bonvoy program and Hilton's Honors program each have over 180 million members. That's a population bigger than most countries, all plugged into their system.
See, these programs are so much more than just a way to earn points. They're basically their own currency, designed to keep you inside their family of hotels. They let the brand personalize your stay, like having your favorite pillow waiting for you. And here's the real kicker. They make billions of dollars through co-branded credit cards. That's why you see so many ads for Bonvoy, and not just for the individual hotels.
Okay, so we've dug into the business model and the brand strategy, but let's bring it all back home. What does all of this corporate strategy actually mean for you, the person who's just trying to find a good place to sleep?
Well, a lot of it depends on what kind of hotel you're booking. If you're staying at a super high-end place like a Ritz-Carlton, the brand itself is probably managing it directly to make sure every single detail is perfect. But if you're at a more everyday select service spot like a Courtyard, it's almost guaranteed to be a franchise run by an independent owner who's just following the brand's rules.
So in the end, this model really does reshape your whole travel experience. First, you get consistency. You know a Courtyard in Dallas is going to feel a lot like a Courtyard in Dubai. Second, pricing is incredibly dynamic. Their systems are so smart that if Taylor Swift announces a concert, room rates can skyrocket instantly, even for hotels miles away. And finally, it creates this illusion of choice. You might see 5 different hotel brands on one street, but they could all be part of the Marriott family, all designed to funnel your money back to the same place.
So the big takeaway here is that the entire hotel industry has been re-engineered. It's not really about the buildings anymore. It's all about the brand and the loyalty it commands. This asset-light model has powered incredible growth and created this powerful system that we all travel in. So the next time you walk into a lobby, ask yourself, are you looking at the brand on the sign or the actual business it's just attached to?